this is Goodnight Stories for Rebel Girls.
Welcome to Goodnight Stories for Rebel Girls. I'm Sadie from Nashville. I'm 8 years old, and I'm interviewing Pearl Thusi, who was the narrator of last week's episode of Goodnight Stories for Rebel Girls. If you haven't heard last week's episode, now is a good time to go back and check it out. Pearl, would you like to introduce yourself?
Hi, I'm Elettra Pearl Thusi, and I'm a South African actress who plays Queen Sono on Netflix's very first African original, Queen Sono. I'm also a mother of two. My first daughter is 12 years old, and the other is 5 years old, and I'm very excited to share this story with you today.
What makes you a rebel girl?
I'm a rebel girl because I've always challenged the status quo. I've never wanted to have a normal life. I wanted to have an extraordinary life. And I realized from a very young age that I'd have to do extraordinary things in order to live a life that was much bigger than what I ever hoped for. And I wanted to make my mom and dad very proud. I was scared of letting myself down. And I always think of the child that I was and who I've become. And who I've become is based on the promises I made to myself as a kid, which was to take care of animals and live an extraordinary life. So basically, the child that I was inspires the adult that I am today. And I want to make sure that every kid out there knows that they are incredible, that you're amazing. And whatever promise you make to yourself right now, you must make sure that the grown-up you always makes the child that was you very proud. I hope that makes sense.
Tell us about the amazing work you're doing with Europa Art and the Nelson Mandela Foundation.
So Europa Art is a company that sells shoes, and I work with them as their ambassador. So we decided to come together, bring some money together, and partnered up with a company that makes shoes that are from recycled materials. So in that way, we were also helping the environment and help provide shoes for 10,000 pairs of shoes to kids out there. And that was very exciting because a lot of children in South Africa and around the continent don't have shoes to go to school, and a lot of them have to walk to school. So you can imagine how uncomfortable it must be, especially in winter, for those kids to walk to school without any shoes. We wanted to make sure that we leave a legacy of hope like Nelson Mandela wanted us to do, to continue with his legacy, which is very important. I think that to make sure you have some sort of footprint in the future, you have to help children of today because they are the ones carrying the legacy, not only for their community, but for the entire country. And we need to empower that legacy by empowering young children.
When Mrs. Obama was young, she often questioned if she was good enough. How do you deal with self-doubt?
I found out that Meryl Streep has imposter syndrome, which is what a lot of women call their self-doubt, because we're not allowed or not welcome in a lot of spaces that either have men or for myself as a Black woman that have Black people. And it can become very scary and you always feel like you're not good enough for certain situations. But when you realize that it's only because you are so driven and you have such high expectations, not only for the world, but especially for yourself, that the self-doubt is a monster that's inside that you've created and that you feed every time you don't think that you're good enough. So it's a constant battle, and it happens to a lot of people, boys and girls, men and women. So whenever you doubt yourself, you must always remember that you're not alone. You must just try harder and make sure that you always make yourself proud, more than that voice inside and more than the people around you.
Your newest role as Queen Sono is an absolute rebel girl. Tell us about her.
Queen Sono is an incredibly strong and tough character that I had to play very recently. She's good at fighting, which I've never really been in a physical fight in my actual life, but it's very exciting to be able to learn to use my body in ways that I'd never ever used before. I got bullied in school, so it kind of feels good to know and show young girls, not just Black girls, but girls around the world, that you can learn to stand up and defend yourself. That makes me very proud that, especially now with Black girls, that they'll get to see themselves on screen and see what they can also be capable of. I grew up watching a lot of action movies because that was all I had access to, that and soapies. So I always kind of visualized myself being able to do the same things, but thought I wasn't allowed to because I'm a girl. But now I'm the leader of that in my continent, of teaching girls that they can be physically strong, that they can be sure of themselves, and that they can break the rules. And she does a lot of that. She breaks the rules of what is expected of her in society. She breaks the rules in the company that she works in that is definitely male dominated. And she challenges herself a lot. And as much as she has doubt, it'll never stop her from pushing through and trying to make sure she wins in the end anyway. And I think that's so exciting about her. She's a spy, she's an agent, she travels around the world fighting crime. And I think what makes me the proudest as the actor about this character is that I got to reflect African women in a way that I don't think they've been reflected before. They are the inspiration for this character, mostly because I get to reflect them. African women, I feel like, carry the world on their shoulders, whether it be their community, whether it be just in their family or their country. They are nurturers. They keep on building their communities, even though they are put in a situation where they're at the bottom of the food chain and they're not allowed to be heroes that are celebrated, but they continue to be heroes regardless. And I think playing the hero Queen is playing, it's such a powerful moment for the African women's narrative.
Mrs. Obama is known for her love of music. If she had been a guest on Lip Sync Battle Africa, what song would you have recommended for her to perform?
One of my favorite songs that I always think, when my life is over, they should play this song is I Was Here by Beyonce. It's a really, really powerful song. And I think that because she loves Beyonce, I think it would be a great fit for her to be like, I made an impact in the world. I have a legacy. I made a big difference. I was a rebel and it worked out. So, I want her to know that we're proud of her being here with us and walking this planet. To live in such a time as this with the likes of the Obamas, and I've lived in the time of Nelson Mandela, all that is really, really powerful. And I'd want to choose an African song for her second song. I haven't really thought that through. Never really thought this at all, but I Was Here by Beyonce and a South African song. Maybe Yvonne Chaka Chaka or Miriam Makeba or Dolly Ratebe, one of the old school ones. Or maybe I'll make her do a rap song by Shoma Josie or Not in a Kaya Poetry or something. I'm going to figure that out. But definitely I Was Here by Beyonce.
Thanks, Pearl. If you like the show, please leave a review on Apple Podcasts or wherever you listen and share it with all of your friends. Stay Rebel!